Peace, family. This is your boy Gerald. It is Sunday. Overcast skies with a mild wind. And I send you love. I send you peace. And of course, I send you blessings. So, before I start my day, I wanted to share this message with you because it is no secret that we have been bombarded with illustrations of impulse, frustration, confusion, deflection, and denial. In a town near you, a city near you, in a state near you, it is what it is. But guess what? I got an Amazon delivery coming up right now. Give me a second. Because I'm getting the Jeep ready. Hey now.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, I was waiting on it from my tag.
Have a great day, man.
You have a blessed one.
Thank you.
Because in 2 days, she goes on the truck, headed to Long Beach to meet the ship so that she will be on that sacred soil. So I'm doing everything I can to get her ready. And it's all about preparation. Am I tired? You damn right I am tired. I am. I'm more mental tired than physical. But let's get back to the point. So, unless you have unplugged, unless you have made a logical choice to stay disconnected to your environment, maybe because of the economic fluctuations of what has been exhibited because of the pandemic, because we are still in a pandemic. That's why there's no reason why you should not put your immune system priority. Mind, body, spirit. But let's talk about the immune system. Because that is your physical defense to what is found outside your door. But it matters not if you don't have your mental defense in play. That means being aware. That means critically thinking. That means to be objective and impartial. Because the day of I don't know, I don't understand, don't matter anymore. You don't get a pass for that. And that is being exhibited by those who do not know. And they're being influenced by emotional triggers. I've been conveying that since day one. But let me tie that into your immune system. Your sacred temple. That body of yours. You are aware that if you don't have mental health, whatever that permeates, whatever that has mental real estate inside that beautiful mind, will be manifested, displayed through your physical form. Mind, body, spirit. Let me go a little deeper. If you have not realized now, by the character traits that have been displayed, that has been demonstrated by various actions, cause and effect, you're going to go through some unnecessary dilemmas. You're going to experience things that should be processed longer than it should. Now, I say that because we tend to water down the fact that when we see things happen, cause and effect, we instantly gravitate to the term karma. And that's fine. Rationalize that at the level that you're at. But nothing that we can articulate, dissect, or even appreciate does not or cannot found in due bounds of what we know as duality. Now, I get it. Some of you have been conditioned by way of disappointment, by deflection, or sadly, denial. And that makes your perception of how you zoom into the world, per se. How you're able to navigate what makes your reality. And you know, I've always said in the past, if there's drama always bubbling up in your life, it's because it's a direct correlation of what's found in your mind. If your relationships all tend to end up the same way, but the faces change, what is the common denominator in that interaction? You. Now I know some of y'all gonna be like, oh, drill back on that BS again. He always talking about relationships. But what do you think a community is? How can you have a community without some form of relationship by way of commonality? Because we could take a position emotionally to live an introverted lifestyle. But thanks to the internet, that tool that gives access to not only canvas the landscapes in milliseconds, you could be talking to somebody that's in Botswana and you live in Detroit. Unlike some that are being reared in today's society, where a click, an acceptance, a following seals the deal. See, when I came up, communications were done by presentation. Started off with a hello. Started off with a question. And depending on if the person was willing to entertain said question, it would build a dialogue. Back then, you had to go through a vetting process. That means you're getting to know each other. And depending on how that went, you called each other. If you didn't call each other, you decided to meet up, hang out. And then depending on how the bond was built, you earned the right to have access to that person's life. You got to go over to where they live at, to meet their parents. It was a process. Fast forward 40 years now. We don't do that when it comes to our bonds. We just bombard unapologetically and take up or attempt to hijack mental real estate. And you wonder why you hear people all the time saying, I didn't know they had that in them. I didn't know they were capable of acting that way. Or here's the big one. They changed. They didn't change. You didn't know them. And sadly, because you didn't know them, you afforded them the luxury of not earning the right to see your worth, to invest in your time, to possibly through communicating interests and brainstorming together, you are afforded the opportunity to build on said mental real estate. But now, in a town near you, a city near you, in a state near you, or worldwide, there's a lot of underlining wounds that should have been properly taken care of that have been reopened. We know that is scar tissue. And it's sad because still it does not negate the fact of the commonality that you have with yourself. You've always heard me convey, you cannot have a community without a relationship with you. How do you know where you're going if you don't have or will not decide to invest in what you need for yourself? It's crazy. And while others are playing checkers, there are plenty playing chess, and they're benefiting off your frustration because of the fact that this is something that no one's speaking on, or maybe they have yet to think about it. You do understand 85% of the illustrations that have been played out through said behaviors a year from now won't matter. And here's the reason why I say that. Because, as you know, we live in a world where distraction is celebrated. Bad behavior is glorified. Follow me now. And unfortunately, when you're dealing with the human dynamic, those same people are going to strategize a way to get you to forget. And I'm not smirking. I'm not watering this down. I want you to resonate on this. Take it in. You know, while we're talking about we need to change our social narrative, why aren't you hearing the same people say we need to change ourselves? While you are pointing the finger at that person, do not overlook the four that are pointing back. We have to do our part, family. We don't get a pass on this one. That is why it's called history. And you know my point on history. Two things. God gives you history by way of that beautiful mind to acknowledge, assess, as well as embrace what has transpired. He is saying to you, beloved, do you understand what I'm showing you? Do you like what you see? And if you don't like what you see, what are you going to do to change it? You know why he's doing that? Because until you decide to be transparent with yourself, what does history do? It repeats itself. It has a looming effect. Let me bring it more detail. Why do you think that when you are in a relationship and you have chosen not to take accountability for your part of that said relationship, but the victimization of that, of what you went through, only to repeat it again and again and again? What's the common denominator? You're present. You have direct vantage point of that. It's playing out right before you, over and over and over and over again. It should get under your skin. Why? Because it's trying to get to your heart. It's trying to be rationalized in your mind. Hey, this ain't going to work for you. And for those who have a cynical mentality, because God will use everything at his disposal because he created it. Because he created you. Guess what he do? So you think that all I've afforded you, you are God-like. You are discrediting my creation, you. Okay. I'm going to take the things that you find priority, the things that you feel matter, just as quick as they were built, just as quick as they fall. If there's no love of me, there's no protection. And I'll keep playing that out until you decide to stand still. Or like our parents say, I can show you better than I can tell you. And what happens? Now what's at stake is your self-esteem. What is being boosted as a defense is your pride. And no matter how you try to be witty or strategize to get the upper hand, it hurts even more. Why? You're not listening. So let's shift that just a little bit. You're going to see this in your life. You're going to see those who are aware. They're going to take note. They're going to do the needed work within themselves. All things that does not honor him, they understand they have to be moved from it. Doesn't matter if it's material, doesn't matter if it's emotional, doesn't matter if it's physical. They understand the greater calling. And without any reluctancy, they are going to unconditionally surrender it. Then you have these people. They're afforded the same. Because we're spiritual beings first. We are. And keep in mind, we only use 6% of our brain. Imagine if we used all 6%. And they're going to say, I'm going to use the road of deflection. And they're going to be lukewarm with what is being asked. So what happens is, they're going to be neutral about a lot of stuff. They're going to be neutral when it comes to the decision making too, because they're going to say, well, yeah, I know this does not work for me. However, I'm going to make it so that it seems I am complying, only to make sure that whatever it was is there's preservation behind it. You know what's going to happen now? Those people are going to willfully put themselves in a position that drags out for a long, long time. But in the back of their mind, they know that at any time that can stop. See, these same people rely on their ego too. But it's reinforced by their pride. So what happens, everything that it has a direct correlation, it tends to have a slow death. It doesn't turn out as they envisioned it to be. And they're going to scratch their head. They're going to find every reasoning they can. But the outcome is going to be the same. You are not complying to my will. And since you are not complying to my will, well, I'm not going to give you what you long for, what you need. Remember when Thomas Jefferson wrote The Pursuit of Happiness? Remember that? Peace of mind, security, a loving family. These are all the things that, as a human being, we strive to have. Transition. You have those that will willfully be defiant and say, I don't care. Will be objective. And no matter how hard you try to rationalize, No matter how hard you try to love, no matter how hard you try to show empathy and compassion, the person that you see is not the person they are. You might as well be looking at like a cicada. You know what a cicada is? Sure you do. You know, that's, when it's really hot. Those, midsummerish, when it's warm. You start hearing the buzzing sound, sound, all of a sudden, then the whole around there, you start hearing a chorus of them. And if you're lucky, you'll notice, just because you're out, you'll see the remains, the shell, the exoskeleton of that said insect clinging. Usually on a tree, might find it on the side of a building, wherever they decided to free themselves of their former self. But the only difference is, in that transformation, some of them don't make it. They already have a short lifespan anyway. They spend majority of their life underground, and then they come out to reproduce, and then they die, usually 7 days later, just like a carpenter bee. And it's the same with certain people. They know what they need. They usually have the means to make said decisions because they think they're thinkers. But they refuse to accept what the outcome should be, because they have fully convinced themselves they know best. And you know what happens to those people? They catch L's every chance they breathe. They will deflect. I got bad luck. I don't understand that. Every time, turn around, they going through, because they're in that season. They're in that season. They should repent of times and actions past. And they hope that time will afford them enough movement that it's forgotten. Those people, unfortunately, I hate even saying this. These may be your neighbors. These may be your loved ones. Some of y'all thinking, somebody right now like, I know exactly who you talking about, Gerald. I know. But they do serve a purpose, though. Because in the transitional scale, they are the chosen illustration, because this is willfully done by them, of what you don't want to be. These people end up becoming bitter. And if they're lucky, because the Most High shows mercy every day. You woke up. You're hearing me. Thank you, though. He's saying to the intended heart and mind, my child, do you like what you see? It doesn't have to be this way. But what I have for you requires that you obey. So these people won't. And they think that a year from now, you'll forget. Now, on the sidebar, you do know we're in our last days, right? Please believe that. We are. But even though we're in our last days, we're still given opportunity to change. As you've heard people in the media say, get on the right side of history. But let me ask you this. What is history if first you don't acknowledge it? Which means you have to cognitively think. You have to objectively decide. Free will. But all people will be judged. And did he not say, don't judge nobody? He basically said, it's not your place. But he didn't say not to be aware of what's going on. You know, just like I always say, the word no does not mean forever. It means under review. So every day that you wake up, you're under review, which means you're being afforded once again to change what does not make you perfect. Now I know somebody said, what do you mean, Gerald? No one's perfect. I understand that literally, but what I'm saying is you're still afforded the opportunity to make said changes in your perception, in your behavior, if you're willing to acknowledge what is being offered to be changed. Now, one of the biggest things that the devil uses, oh yeah, I use the big D, is ignorance, because he echoes what the Most High said. The Most High said, you do not have because you have not asked. How am I going to give you what you need if you don't know what you need? How can it be measured? Because it comes from your heart, not what's found coming from your soup coolers. And guess what? One by one by one by one, he created you. He can destroy you. Remember, your body's not obligated to take in this air. Who told you that? You can't be so proud that you can convince your heart to continue to beat. Those things are priceless. But you know what's right up there? Is the legacy that you're going to leave your offspring with by the behavior that you exhibit. And since we want to spread the social paintbrush, and we've had people say, well, but silence means you're condoning. What's worse, being silent and condoning, or being aware and choosing to do nothing? So how can you expect to have a community when you don't have a relationship with the person that matters most in the mirror looking back? And you wonder why you don't have a relationship. First of all, you can't expect to have a fruitful relationship until you have a blessed relationship with yourself. You do yourself a disservice. I hear you queens always say, I'll go get me a man. Then you get mad because he does not have the faculties to be called one. King, how can you be frustrated when you don't invest in yourself to earn the right to be called Mr.? You know that, Mr. That means legally you're a man, but emotionally you're doing boyish things. Even Moses said, as I got older, I set aside my childish ways. So if you do know that, and you are aware what I'm saying, even though I may misappropriate my message, it comes from a genuine place. But it matters not if you don't resonate, if you don't take it in. Do you realize how much of a loss you take if you allow the mental real estate to be inhibited by fear, by bias? What you do understand, everything you project out is a direct correlation to what's found within. Now let's flip this. Mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit. Does it surprise you now, within the last 15 years? I'll be generous and say, no, not even the last 15. All of a sudden you have a lot of people that are having mental health issues. And still those people that know they've got mental health issues refuse to do anything, and they wonder why your world feels like it's falling down around you. Don't you realize that is nothing but pain, poisoning your body? Now let me go a little further. You have people that are diagnosed with lupus. You have people diagnosed from MS. You have people diagnosed with other neurological ailments and diseases. What is the common denominator? Mind. If you ask these people, did you go through any trauma in your life? I guarantee a lot of them would say yes. And even if they say, I ain't had no trauma, then you rephrase the question and ask, what was your biggest, if you had to describe, what was your biggest disappointment? And you'll be surprised. You have people walking around, even though in social settings, in age, they may be grown as hell. But when you talk to them, you see that 7-year-old. When you see their behavior amplified, because they think that if I raise the octave of my voice, I'll be taken serious, like a child having a tantrum. So what do you do with a child that's having a tantrum? You coddle them. You don't match octave with octave. But some know that is a means of control too, because they say, well, I didn't have love. So you can't punish me or condemn me for not having a loving relationship when I've never seen one in my upbringing. You do understand those are generational curses, right? Which goes back to what I just said. When the Most High gives every spiritual being the opportunity to acknowledge history. Because everybody has a past. But if you do not respect it to want to change it by acknowledging what does not work, you're deemed to repeat it. And doing the same behavior, expecting a different outcome, is nothing but insanity. Albert Einstein. Are we not doing that? Are we not doing that? Are we not doing that? So let's go back to those people that are at the crossroads and they're looking down the road to their lives, and by way of looking back and acknowledging what has transpired, what has motivated them, as well as unconditionally submitting to what must take place. This is what you're going to see. For the people that refuse to do anything, do yourself a favor. Come to terms that that person is going to leave you. They're going to leave you. They're not going to say anything. God has a way of taking the things that should matter from the things that don't. So, in closing, family, you're going to see a lot of people right now trying to straddle the fence, and they're going to be like, well, we're going to support, and we're going to show by money, and we're going to show by action, and they're hoping that you will give them a pass. Let me tell you something, family. That's smoke and mirrors. Change is done and exhibited by time. And guess what? They're hoping that your attention span changes in a year. And for those who choose to do nothing, to take the position of, oh, there's nothing but a phase. They just pissed off. I ain't gonna change. I'm just gonna do me. Well, just remember, everything that comes into your life is an opportunity to change what shouldn't. But I hope you have that same energy as long standing, because you're going to need that to get through what you have willfully ushered into your life. And I wouldn't wish that on nobody. So anyway, I hope you guys have a blessed day. Stop worrying about your community if you're not willing to invest in the person most, and that's the person that looks in the mirror, greets you every day, and says good night. And that's you. Be blessed.